Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I am joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She doesn't speak Spanish, but she can fake it for this podcast. It's Olivia Richards. Hello.
Sí. No.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
Sí.
And that portion of our podcast is done.
Love it.
I think we killed it. Yeah, so today we are talking about the second mid-season comedy to preview on NBC in the last couple weeks. It's Telenovela. Olivia, what did you think of this pilot?
It tried to do some things.
It tried.
It didn't succeed, but it certainly tried.
It really tried. Speaking Spanish, one of those things.
Yeah.
And it had about as much success as we did just now.
I think we might have had a little bit more.
Yeah, honestly, I'm being a little bit generous to the show. Yeah, so this is a show starring Eva Longoria, playing the character that Eva Longoria always plays, which is a very attractive, very stuck-up woman who is still sort of charming and overall well-intentioned. She is the star of a telenovela whose ex-husband gets cast in the romantic lead opposite her, and hijinks ensue. So tell me what about this didn't work for you?
It just, everything was over the top, which, okay, if that's what you're going for, but I feel like this tried to be Ugly Betty or Jane the Virgin in what they tried to do, but the only difference is that with that, like, the plot was crazy, and intentionally so, but the characters were grounded. With this, everything was too over the top. Like, the characters were over the top, the situations were over the top, the drama was over the top, like, everything was so kind of floating around, but nothing was actually like kind of bringing it down to the ground to make it relatable. And I got through the first episode and I didn't want to watch the other two. Same
here. I'm in the same boat. I watched one episode and said, you know what, telenovela? That's good.
That's good.
I'm good. I think I know what you're all about. No, but I agree with your assessment. I think that this is obviously and I think it's intentionally over the top. I don't think that this is a misfire on their part in terms of executing what they're trying to do. I think it's more a misjudgment of what actually works. And I mean, I get that the premise is that it's a show about a fictional telenovela, but the show itself is a telenovela, right? It's this like over the top romance story with all kinds of emotions and all of that is set on the set of a Spanish soap opera. Like that's the idea here. And I usually don't say this because normally like good acting and good writing can make any premise work, but I think that's kind of the problem. I think this is a dumb premise. And you mentioned Jane the Virgin, which I think is the sort of instructive comparison here. That Jane the Virgin is a telenovela. It's not set on one. It's not like set on a TV set, but it is the show itself, like the genre of television it is a telenovela. The miscalculation with this show that Jane the Virgin really expertly navigates is that Jane the Virgin loves telenovelas. Like that is a love letter to the genre. And it is even though it can be over the top and melodramatic and everything, it's overall very like respectful of the world in which it is operating. This show, titled Telenovela, hates telenovelas.
Yep.
And all the jokes are making fun of the genre that the show itself is. Like every joke is at the expense of usually Eva Longoria, but someone in the cast or the very genre of the show. And that is a miscalculation. That is unpleasant to watch. Even if the jokes were better, it would be unpleasant to watch. And I just think this show is a bad idea. And then on top of that, it's executed poorly.
No, exactly. I completely agree. And just, I don't know, because like with Jane the Virgin, again, like you have these really wonderful, like relatable characters who are kind of set or against like this kind of grand background of what you said before, the love letter to the genre. And with this, it's like you kind of have bland characters. Like I don't remember any of their names. You
Yeah,
have like this
me neither.
crazy plot that kind of like doesn't carry through, and just everything kind of doesn't fit together.
Right. Yeah, I think this is technically a parody. But like the problem is, like you said, nothing feels like it matters. Like, why would I ever know a character name from this show? Like you said, like why would I ever bother to learn a character name? They are clearly not representative of real people in the slightest. It's just
No.
a sort of wacky parody, and that that can work, but it's not it's again it's kind of mean about the genre that it's in, and then it's also very bad. It's just it's not funny at all. Like I think there's a good litmus test about 3 seconds into this pilot, and I'm gonna describe it to save our listeners 3 seconds, which is
Yeah.
the first scene happens is Eva Longoria walking onto set, and 3 seconds in she slips and falls, and if you think that's funny, you might like telenovela. Like that's sort of the level of humor, because then 2 seconds later she slips and falls again. And the first time her comment afterwards is that didn't hurt, and the second time it's that kind of hurt. And if that's just right in your comedic sweet spot, then give this a go. But
Absolutely. Or what was that scene where she's meeting with the new whatever, like director, CEO, or
uh,
president of the station, and her dress falls down
yes,
because it turns out she was still being tailored, so like it was still pinned together, and she walks out holding her dress up.
yes.
I was like, I mean, okay, I guess if that's what we're going for, but like again, it's not smart humor. Like I guess if that's what the show is, and if that's kind of what you're looking for, but again, there's nothing that was really like, I can't imagine that anyone really sat down and carefully thought these jokes out and like ran it by other writers, and they were like, yeah, like that, let's do that.
Yeah, not smart humor might be the most kind thing ever said about the comedy on this show. this is this is I mean, dumb. This is dumb jokes. This is falling down, whether it's people or dresses or whatever. Like if you think things falling down and pratfalls and all of that stuff is just the funniest thing in the world, then boy do I have a show for you. but but yeah, it's a parody, but it also seems like a parody written by someone who has never seen a telenovela. Like there is nothing specific about this. This is a such a bland, generic parody of a genre. There is just, and it's not like I'm some kind of expert, but you kind of know, like when someone has knowledge of what they're spoofing, and there just isn't any here. Like every joke is the broadest possible thing. It's like someone read the Wikipedia entry for telenovela and said, "Let's make fun of that," and it's mean spirited, and it's again really dumb. All the jokes are just like, I mean, it's like the jokes that you would find like in like a newspaper or something. It's like
Yeah.
there's like a little box that says like this week's jokes. It's like these are the jokes. Like there's everything here is so just bland and non-specific, and like you said, the characters are worthless and not treated as real people even for 1 second. And it does the thing that every pilot has done this year, which is it treats its characters like trash for the first 85%, and then at the end it tries to redeem them all with like a dialogue scene. And at some point sitcoms are going to learn that that doesn't work, that if you establish your characters as trash people, then like one like scene where they speak like semi-recognizable humans does nothing. That doesn't do anything. Like your characters have to be people from the start, or you've punted on that concept. And that is it just this show is so like it's so lost. Like there's just it's a bad idea. Everything is bad about it. I don't see any like path forward for telenovela.
I completely agree with everything you just said. And I like really, again, I hate when comedies do that thing, like you had just said, where it's like everything sucks and then they cram in like 2 seconds of humanity.
Ugh.
And if anything, that just makes me angrier. I'm like, don't do that. That's so mean. That's like condescendingly patting the audience on the head and saying, like,
Yeah.
it's okay. They're real people. Like, these are people you can watch. And I'm like, no.
That's exactly it. It's condescending. It's thinking the audience is stupid. Which honestly, if you watch more than one episode of telenovela, well, if the shoe fits. But like honestly, like this is television for the lowest common denominator of viewer. This is just for someone who, because I can't imagine someone who like even has affection for this genre would like it. Because again, if you feel like that, then Jane the Virgin is the show for you. That's like
Absolutely.
a smart tribute to the genre. This is just a dumb parody of the genre. This is like making fun of something when you don't really understand what that something is. And that's really the sense for me. Like aside from everything being dumb, the lack of affection for the subject matter was really what came through here. Like if this was just a well-intentioned but poorly executed parody, then I would not feel so negatively about it. But it's clear that this is the intention here is just to point and laugh. And that sucks. Like that's cynical. That's the kind of TV that I don't need, and I don't think there's anything redeeming about this. I mean, did you find any were there any performances you liked, any supporting characters, any positives?
Not really. I mean, it
Yeah.
ended, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was only a half hour. I was worried that it might be an hour. Just
I
'cause-
know. I looked on and I was like, okay. It was doing the same thing that I guess what was it, Superstore had done, where it did the preview until it gets picked up, presumably in January.
yeah. Well, about that pickup, because
Ah,
the first half hour of this did a 1.4 on the demo, and with 5.34 million total viewers. And this is an NBC show, and so you think that's not so bad. Like 1.4 demo is not disaster. But then you remember that it premiered immediately following The Voice, which did
yep.
a 2.8 demo with 12 million viewers. So it lost over half of its audience from The Voice. And then the second half hour dipped to a zero point 0.9 rating with 3.35 million viewers. And so this show lost half of its voice lead-in, and then in the span of a half hour, lost a third of its audience from that half lost. I mean, it's already hemorrhaging viewers, and this was just a preview. So,
Yep.
so uh, if I'm NBC, I'm pulling the plug on this before it ever hits the air. So that's I mean, we do our cancel quickly, makes it through the season, renewed for next season. I think NBC, based on, like, one way to tell, like, how much a network has invested in the pilot is what they use for the music. And they licensed, like, pop radio songs for this, which makes me think that NBC is weirdly invested in this pilot, because they paid a lot of money for music on this pilot. And if I'm NBC, this never premieres on January 4th. I cancel it right now, and I just don't look back. But what is your verdict? Cancel quickly, makes it to the season, or renewed for next season?
It's going to be canceled quickly because, like you said before, it was just kind of flashy. It kind of reminded me of like a scented garbage bag where we all know what we're going to put in it, but it kind of picks you up a little bit at first.
Scented garbage bag. Oh, they should change the name to that when it actually premieres.
Put it in
Scented garbage.
Spanish, so it's a
Yeah.
telenovela.
Oh yeah. La basura. Um, yeah, again, if NBC has any pride, they'll just cancel this. But then, like, very few shows are getting canceled this year. And again, I think that they invested some money in this. I'm sure Eva Longoria doesn't come cheap, and I don't think she's bad. I mean, I'd say that she is the probably most positive element of this. It's just that, I mean, she's doing what the show asked of her. She's a very beautiful woman, and the show certainly makes use of that with the aforementioned dress falling down scene. Um,
Yep.
it was kind of like oh, what was that pilot from last year with Kelly Brook in it? Um oh, I forget who the lead was, but it was Ellen's show.
Oh, I mean, there was probably a reason I'm blanking on the
Yeah,
name.
our mutual friend Meg is going to kill us for not remembering it because she loved it dearly.
I know.
But anyway, that show was one where it's like you go into the pilot and you're like, well, they're gonna get Kelly Brook naked, right? Like this is an NBC comedy, like you kind of know that's what, and then it happens. This is one where it's like they're gonna have some kind of like sexy physical comedy with Eva Longoria so for the men whose girlfriends are forcing them to watch. And
That's accurate.
yeah, so I mean, NBC comedies, nothing if not predictable when it comes to that stuff. Um, so yeah, so your final verdict, Olivia, thumbs up or thumbs down on telenovela?
This is going to be a thumbs down. No me gusta. Not for me
Nope.
or anyone.
No bueno. This is really bad, really bad, and I'm disappointed because I'm sure they were inspired by Jane the Virgin, as like thinking like they could bring this genre to the mainstream, and they just didn't. They didn't. So, you've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable, a TVBinges.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Or find us at southgatemediagroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.